It seemed that the Umbrella researchers had invented more than just a virus, something just as deadly, but with claws.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, Resident Evil, The Umbrella Conspiracy.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Greetings, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. I am J.W. Valentine Friedman.
Ooh, and I am Chris, President Evil. Check out those biohazards in the White House.
Oh, damn.
Collision. Yeah, getting topical right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning, and pulling out the Japanese name of the video game. That's it. That's what they call an Easter egg in the industry, folks.
I didn't know that was the name. I was just making a reference to my favorite Onyx collaborating metalcore band, whatever the fuck genre they were.
Well, when it comes to this book, I believe we are all just another victim. Sorry. Because this time around, we read a novelization of a video game, which we haven't done for a really long time.
Look, you mashed that play button. You knew that by doing so, you were saying, let the boys be boys.
Anyway, I don't think we've done a video game adaptation since Doom, right?
There was one, but I think it was a Patreon-only exclusive where we did Blaster Master, which
Blaster
Master, which was, as somebody who didn't play the game and barely read the book, I remember as one of those things that was sort of titles and names inspired by Blaster Master, but maybe didn't have a whole heck of a lot to do with the source material.
Well, this time around we did Resident Evil, The Umbrella Conspiracy, which is based on the first Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 1.
Resident Evil 1,
yes,
you say?
Yes, definitely. And many subsequent remakes. But I would say this definitely does not have that problem. This relates very closely to the video game.
So are you telling me that if you were... cards on the table, I think you were less positive about this experience than I was. So coming from a more negative, critical place of judgment as you are, rather than a squealing fanboy place as I am, would you say something like, this is like reading a punched up walkthrough?
That's exactly what I was going to say, but I'm going to save a lot of that for later, because there's a segment of the show just for the parts where I complain about things I don't like.
Oh, a new segment. Wow.
No.
Neat.
It's one that's always been there. But I want to kind of keep a lid on that.
Okay.
But yes, I would agree with you. I would definitely say this is very much like watching someone play the video game, or if anybody remembers GameFAQs.com.
Fuck yeah.
This is a lot like reading a text walkthrough of the game for many reasons. But I think before we go any further, we should tell the people at home what this... I almost said game, what this novel is about in a succinct fashion. So this is a segment called Plot in 60 Seconds.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
All right, Collision.
So normally I fail miserably at this after trying really hard to prepare for it. This time around, I did no preparation for it, and I'm just going to come clean at the beginning and say I barely understand what's happening on any kind of plot level in this book. Now, I hear what you're saying, Jay. I just said I liked this book, and now I'm admitting I didn't know what happened. Yes, both things are true. Free your mind, my brother.
This was a surreal experience. I'll agree with you there.
It wasn't a linear experience.
No, not at all.
But I'm gonna try anyway.
So, are you ready?
I am.
Begin.
We are in Raccoon City, an American town near rural Route 6 at the foothills of the Arklay Mountains near Victory Lake and Raccoon Forest.
Of course.
Our protagonists are Jill Valentine, a 23-year-old trained thief gone straight, haunted by the murder of the little girls who lived across her street. Raccoon City has been plagued by a series of violent disappearances and murders, and our heroes are all in the STARs, team, squad, platoon,
Something like that.
something like that. They're basically a private SWAT team, private paramilitary organization. In addition to Jill, there's Chris Redfield, who's an bright, thoughtful, top-notch marksman and able pilot. Barry Burton, his passions are his family, his weapons collection, and weightlifting. They don't specify what order. He's my favorite character. Brad Vickers, undoubtedly the best hacker working for STARS, and a decent enough pilot, but not so hot under pressure. If it's not clear, these are all direct quotes, by the way, that I wrote down because I found them so delightful, and I really like a getting the team together description. Oh, yeah. Chris Redfield was recruited to STARS after, quote, a chance encounter at a local gun shop. So, listeners, start your fanfic engines and send those to I don't even own a television at gmail.com, please. Anyway, Chris Redfield thinks that these disappearances are related to the spooky Spencer Mansion out in Raccoon Forest, but nobody, especially Captain Albert Wesker, believes him. So they send out a B team first. Their helicopter
Called the Bravos. A literal B team.
The Bravos. They send them out to investigate, but the copter goes down. And then all the characters whose names you've bothered to learn get sent in to find them. And they find what? Carnage. Carnage and skinless dogs, and then zombies, and then the mansion. And then the mansion turns out to be A, overrun with zombies, and B, over a hyper-modern research medical bio lab facility where there's even more different kinds of monsters. Who could possibly be behind all this? Could it be the owner of the facility, the Umbrella Corporation? Who knows? The only way to know is to follow our intrepid heroes through the haunted house, but with monsters.
Well, that was way over a minute. I think like 3 minutes.
Yeah, probably.
And you left out a couple big parts, by the way.
Wait, did I leave any big parts out? Like what?
Wesker's a fucking double agent, dude.
Spoilers much?
Well, that's what we do on this show.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah. So there is this ongoing thing that if you were on one of every pill from every medicine cabinet on your block, you might be able to miss the foreshadowing of who's the double agent. It's Wesker, and he's got the most muscular member of the team, Barry Burton, blackmailed into being his muscle for him.
Can I read you something?
I insist that you do.
So from Wikipedia.com, the source of all of the greatest information on the web.
Is Wikipedia really a .com?
I don't know.
I think it's an
.org. Yeah, sorry. This is the story of Resident Evil.
You might call me a bit of a Wikipedophile.
Whoa. I thought you were going to say Wikipedant, and I was totally okay with that. But that went places I did not expect.
Or condone.
Exactly. So this is the Wikipedia entry for the story of the Resident Evil video game.
Oh,
and I
my
just
God.
want to read this because you're going to find this hilarious.
Okay.
On July 24th, 1998, when a series of bizarre murders occurs on the outskirts of the fictional Midwestern town of Raccoon City.
Okay, Midwestern, calling bull. Well, okay.
No, they changed it from the book, from this to the book.
I think they mean like Michigan Midwest.
In the book, it's supposed to be Pennsylvania, I believe. In the game, it's somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay.
The Raccoon City Department STARS team are assigned to investigate. After contact with Bravo team is lost, Alpha team is sent to investigate their disappearance. Alpha team locates Bravo team's crash helicopter and land at the site where they're suddenly attacked by a pack of monstrous dogs, killing team member Joseph Frost. After Alpha team's helicopter pilot Brad Vickers panics and takes off alone, the remaining members of the team, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wessler, and Barry Burton, are forced to seek refuge in a nearby abandoned mansion.
Okay, I feel like I hit most of those, not really in that order so much, but I feel like I hit most of those.
No, you did, but I mean, just I'm going to skip. I won't read everything, but literally the plot of this book is beat for beat the plot of the video game.
So let me ask you a question about that. Did you play / beat the video game?
Yes.
Okay, both?
There was more than 2. There's 7.
No. I mean, did you both play it and beat it?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay, so I owned Resident Evil for the Nintendo GameCube.
Ooh, stop bragging.
Right. And
look at this fancy boy over here with the GameCube remake.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was really more of a port and graphical upgrade,
Very
as
true.
I understand it.
They also added back in a lot of stuff that was originally censored from the U.S. release. Pushes glasses up.
Whoa. So I didn't know any of that. Here's what I do know. The part about the part up to and including helicopter crash number 2 taking refuge is about the first 4 minutes of the game and is mostly cutscenes, as I remember.
Mostly live action cutscenes, which is what makes this game especially wonderful.
It really does feel like a particularly dumb kind of action, what you think is going to be an action movie about badass soldiers, but is then more of a horror movie featuring putative badass soldiers who are actually just as helpless and useless as, say, IDK high school students.
Yeah.
However, here's the second thing I know about Resident Evil. I never got out of the first room.
Oh, wow.
I didn't try very hard. I played it a couple of times. I couldn't get my head around the controls.
The controls were awful.
I couldn't get my head around not getting killed and eaten by the first zombie in the game. And I was like, you know what? I think I can live a full life playing mostly puzzle games. Thanks.
Life's too short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a new experience. The book was a new experience for me. I did not know the story because I hadn't lived it before.
It's like kind of a very retro version of going on YouTube to just watch the story of a game without playing it. Which is what a lot of people do now, I think.
Oh my God. I know a lot of people do that. I know a lot of people read the Wikipedia for horror movies that they think will scare them.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of this too.
Now I'm starting to wonder if there weren't people out there who were like, wow, this Alien movie is the talk of the town, but it looks a little too frightening for me. That beautiful H.R. Giger production design really is squicking me out. I know. I shall read the Alan Dean Foster novelization.
Yes, because that was me with most horror movies as a kid, for sure.
You were like seeking out the novelization?
I could handle gore on the page, but not visual. So like lots of movies that seem scary that I'd be interested in, I'd read the novelization of instead when I was a teenager.
How am I only finding this out now?
I don't know. I don't know why this has never come up, but it's definitely 100% true.
This is like deep doc lore here.
It is. It's very true. Like I've read like several books in various horror movie franchises that I was scared to watch. So yeah, that is the truth.
That's fascinating. Okay, so again, I think possibly some of the enthusiasm gap between us is explicable by the fact that it was a new experience for me, was not a new experience for you. But I also just want to come clean and say, while I've barely played any Resident Evil games and have certainly never finished one, I am a giant fan of the series of movies.
Oh, the movies are great, but they're so different from the games.
And now and they're very different from each other. And now, so I like the movies a lot, and I like this book, and I'm having to confront myself and as the kind of person who apparently likes the expanded Resident Evil universe.
The Resident Evil verse?
Yeah. Like, I'm the fan.
I guess you are. I don't know. I think the movies are really good. It's definitely better than when they tried to make a movie out of Silent Hill, which was horrible.
Actually, so I saw the first one, again, having never played the game or not knowing anything about it. I saw the first one alone at the super cheap movie theater in Portland with about 3 people in the room. And some of the images in that were genuinely disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that those images were lifted straight from the game.
They were.
But I can tell you that riding my bicycle through deserted Portland streets that night...
Was it foggy?
It was not foggy, but like I'm a fraidy cat. Like just walking down a completely deserted street at nighttime is usually enough to cue my brain into imagining the giant spider that I know is walking behind me. And yeah, that night the old fear module was working overtime.
So I want to talk just a little bit about one of my favorite aspects of the entire Resident Evil world, which we've mentioned briefly.
Is it the tank controls?
No, it's the name Raccoon City.
Because
this is so much something that was created by a Japanese dude trying to think of what an American city would be named. In my mind, some guy just going, Raccoon City, that's it. Yep, that's totally Americana.
Indigenous animal place name.
Yeah, like, what would a small town in America be called? Possum Kingdom? Raccoon City.
Take me down to the Raccoon City where the viruses spread and the blood is sticky.
I was going to say, take me down to the Raccoon City where the trash is plentiful and something, but yeah. I don't know. Raccoon City cracks me up every time they're like, oh, we should be able to get back to Raccoon by morning.
It's so good. Especially because through about the first 2/3 of the book, it's always Raccoon City or Raccoon Forest. And yeah, in the last third of the book or so, it slips a little bit and people do just start talking about Raccoon. Like, we're going to catch the copter back to Raccoon and we're going to blow the lid off this whole sordid conspiracy.
Yeah. Wait until the Raccoon Police Department hears about this, which made me think of little raccoons in cop outfits, which would be the only good cops ever.
A raccoon would never be a cop.
That's true, actually. They even have little bandit masks.
As I believe Mick Jagger once said, every cop is a criminal and all the sinners are saints.
Ooh, inverted logic.
Is your mind exploding yet?
Man.
Exploding like the Spencer Mansion, nestled and thought to be forgotten deep in Raccoon Forest.
Yes, it is. Raccoon Forest. I want to hang out in Raccoon Forest. I imagine, like, in my mind, it's like where Winnie the Pooh lives, except with talking raccoons.
Raccoon Forest, lovely place, world's worst place to go camping. They will get all up in your food.
I do also, before we go into high points, low points, I just want to talk about the prose style of this book, because it should be mentioned that the author of this book, whose name I neglected to write down.
S.D. Perry.
Okay.
Daughter of a best-selling science fiction novelist whose works I've never read. I'm cribbing from the back of the book here. She lives in Portland, Oregon, with her husband and 2 children. And S.D. Perry, you are my favorite new writer.
I believe her father's name is Steve Perry, but
Come
not
on the show.
That Steve Perry.
What was his big single hit?
Oh, Sarah, I'm in love. That's it. It's Oh, Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. But again, that's the Steve Perry it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
We think.
You know, the one who was born and raised in South Detroit, a.k.a. Canada.
Yeah.
And yes, that is true. Detroit is north of... It's in a little part?
It's north of parts of Canada.
I know. But just every time he says born and raised in South Detroit, right. I'm like, oh, so Ontario. Cool.
Whoa, you grew up in the Windsor Casino? You want a fucking prize from the crane machine?
So I did want to mention, just kind of stylistically, this book I feel like took a lot of cues from those live action segments in the Resident Evil video game, which are routinely kind of mocked as having some of the worst writing ever. Because this contains things like, this is one of my favorite lines of the book, and I hope I'm not stepping on your toes. This is when we first start to learn that a Wesker may be a bit of a jerk, because it's him thinking about the chief of police, and it says, shitting his pants, no doubt. Wesker chuckled as he stepped back out onto the sun-baked asphalt, getting a sudden clear mental image of irons, his pudgy cheeks red with anger, and crap dribbling down his leg.
So... That it's not exactly stepping on my toes. Let me invite the listener in for a second. We don't talk a ton before the show, except in usually pretty broad strokes about what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
We prefer to have more of a free-flowing conversation.
It's like jazz, man.
But we, based on that conversation and what we've read so far, I'm going to say that about 80% of the stuff we have highlighted is in common.
Well, I think that
because the only difference between what you just read and what I had highlighted is I had slightly more highlighted because I thought it was that fucking funny.
I just like, to me, when a grown man is like, that other guy is shitting his pants, you're not chuckling because you're envisioning the literal act of someone shitting his pants.
Right.
You're chuckling because of your, established masculine dominance over this guy who's afraid and he's a big wimp and you're a tough guy and that's funny. It's not like imagining, this guy has poop on him.
Right. I think that you're on to something there, but I want to give two more examples of the tone elements of the prose. The first is labeled as just exactly right in my notes. It could have once been a spider if spiders ever got to be the size of cattle.
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, that's perfect. Thank you. That is absolutely terrific pulp writing. The one where I start to think, well, maybe not all the aspects of the tone are exactly right, comes from a little thing I like to call the epilogue.
AKA the good ending you get if you rescue all of the other STARS members.
Oh.
And that I'm not making that up. There
dope.
are 4 possible endings to the game. This is the good ending, is the epilogue in this book.
Fuck, and we didn't get the other 3 as like dream sequences or at least like Barry Burton musing over what could have gone wrong?
No. To be honest, they're all really similar too.
I am not going to lie to you. I wish you hadn't told me that because now I am feeling as though the $7.99 I paid for this book was a bit of a rip.
The only difference is how many people survive and whether or not the mansion explodes.
Well, so we got the one where they all survive and the mansion explodes. Is there one? But I mean, that's like 4 independent variables, and I'm no math magician, but that's like 7,000 different possibilities.
Well, you could either play as one of 2 characters in the game, if you remember correctly.
I don't.
Okay, so basically what it is 2 endings. 2 for each character, basically. So it's either just you and your partner escaping, or it's you and your partner and the one person you save at the end escaping.
Okay.
That happens no matter what. I think there's a way where you can be a sole survivor, and then the mansion either explodes or it doesn't.
Okay.
How exciting.
Well, I'm excited.
Anyway,
back to the tone. So Brad Vickers is the copter pilot. Side note, it really annoys me that it's apostrophe copter 100% of the time, never chopper.
Yeah, chopper is much better.
Never even helicopter.
Nah.
Never even the...
Whirlybird.
Never whirlybird. Never even the, did you know that most of my clothes say tactical on them? Helo.
Helo. Ooh, good one.
So he's but he's a bit of a coward. And at the beginning, as shit starts to get hairy, he just pieces the fuck out, which is kind of a character note for Brad and more a semi-clunky plot device to explain why this crack tactical unit has to count their bullets all the time and doesn't have things like flashlights for the dusk rescue mission they are embarked upon.
Yep.
So Brad pieces out. We think he's gone the whole time, but then he sort of comes in on a staticky comms channel. And after he's picked everybody up in the epilogue, this is Brad musing to himself in what I would think of as perhaps the tone not being maintained quite as perfectly as one might hope. Brad kept his mouth shut, still feeling crappy about taking off earlier.
Crappy.
He'd been through hell since then, flying around in circles and watching the fuel gauge slowly drop. Okay, so the 4 people sitting behind Brad in the helicopter have fought off skinless dogs, claw monsters that walk on two legs, claw monsters that crawl on the ceiling,
A giant man-eating plant.
a giant man-eating hell plant with 20-foot vine arms.
It's Audrey from
Yeah.
Little Shop of Horrors, or Audra, whatever her name was.
And also Cthulhu.
Yeah.
The Tyrant, which is like a dude but bigger and naked, and one arm is a big claw and his heart is on the outside of his body, but you can't shoot it.
He's really fucked up looking at the movie.
Yeah. He's also lipless.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's probably a little closer to going through hell than doing circles in a helicopter, watching the fuel gauge. But let me return. It had been a total nightmare, and he had to take a piss like nobody's business. So, I liked this book. That was not my favorite paragraph in this book, friends.
I just love it. I wish we could have periodic check-ins with every character to know how their bladders are faring.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like,
I mean,
Chris Redfield was an amazing tactical soldier with great bladder control. At no point during a mission had he ever stopped and thought, boy, I need to visit the little boy's room.
Jill Valentine made sure the door was locked behind her as the pursuing mutants slavered and beat against the wall.
Well,
Thank God I did all those kegels and didn't piss myself even a little bit when I coughed as I ran, thought Jill.
dude, it just popped into my head that one of the characters mentions that the way he got through his tactical gun training is because someone told him not to piss his pants when a firefight gets too heavy, and he thought about that a bunch.
That would be Chris Redfield, and that's true. It's particularly funny because who told him that was his grizzled sergeant whose record scratch. A woman?
What?
A tiny woman? And it completely discombobulates and wrongfoots him. And he basically is so shocked he forgets how to be tense. This book is so good.
Barry, we know, has...
My favorite character.
We know he has great bladder control.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because when Wesker disappears to do something furtive and comes back, he says, "Sorry about that. I had some business to attend to. You know, call of nature." Barry smiled again, but was surprised by the confession. Trapped in hostile territory, and this man had gone off to take a leak? So this book is kind of weirdly focused on whether or not people have to go to the bathroom.
That's extremely Vietnam, grizzled sergeant thinking his, fresh-faced lieutenant is not yet acclimated to being in country. And that means that fresh-faced lieutenant about to get fragged.
Yeah, totally. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and drop a bomb all over this book here and do high points, low points. Here is a song.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
All right, so high points, low points. We talk about things we liked about this book and things that we did. Collision, I know you liked most of this book. So I'm going to give you the floor here to start us off.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for me to come up with stuff that I don't like. What is... Okay, I just have to talk about the pros here. I get that this is mostly just laying out stuff that happened in the game, but I do think that S.D. Perry has a legitimate gift at writing usually head splattering violent scenes. Let me find one of my favorite examples. I believe this is from chapter 15. Tiny, light-colored eyes peered out at her from a flat, reptilian skull. It turned its strange gaze toward her, dropped its wide-hinged jaw, and let out a tremendous high-pitched screech like nothing she'd ever heard before. Jill fired 3 shots that smacked into the creature's chest and sent it reeling backwards. And with another terrible shriek, it sprang at her. She fired again and again as it flew toward her, the bullets tearing into its puckered flesh, ribbons of dark blood coiling away, and it landed in a heaving crouch only a few feet in front of her, screaming, one massive arm snaking out to swipe at her legs, A musky, moldy animal smell washed over her. A smell like dark places and feral rage. Jesus, why won't it die? Jill trained the Beretta on the back of its skull and emptied the clip. Even as the green flesh splattered away and bones splintered, she continued to fire, the hot slugs ripping into the pulpy, pinkish mass of its brain. Click, click, click.
Boom. That's disgusting.
That's amazing.
So the high point is essentially that she's really good at gore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if that's necessarily a high point for me, but she is really good at gore.
I mean, for a book like this, being good at what it says on the tin, I think is a legit high point.
That's fair.
But I definitely get that tastes will differ. You know, if that were in a Miss Marple mystery, it would be wildly out of place and very disturbing.
And we all know that's how my tastes skew. So, not a joke, folks.
Miss Marple put down her teacup. Click, click, click.
Then she emptied the clip of her Uzi into the oncoming zombie's face.
Well, I mean, what we like about Miss Marple is she empties the Uzi of her surprisingly analytic mind into the flesh of the lies she is being told by those who would cover up murder most foul.
It's like when I put the clip in my Lyrical 9, dude. Said every white rapper from the 1990s ever.
And what do you unload your clip at, sir?
I don't know, fake hip-hop, phony rappers who don't know the truth.
Shiny suits and videos.
Or just you, the listener.
People who order bottle service in clubs.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, generally the way, most lecture-based music works, like old, backpacker hip-hop or old school hardcore or whatever, it's mostly about being lectured. That's part of the pleasure of listening to it, is kind of, being mentally dominated by the person on the record as they tell you what you're doing wrong.
Or just very loudly agreed with. Like,
yeah.
The subtitle to an awful lot of those songs could just be, "You're right already."
That's true. But I was thinking more about, there's lots of hip hop. You're this and you're that and I'm this and I'm that. And that carries over into the hardcore world too, where like, I forgot what it was. It was like, not even hardcore, I guess, just like punk, pop punk. A friend and I like went through a face-to-face record one day to see how many songs were written in the second person and were chastising the listener. Yeah. And it's like maybe 1 out of 14 songs that wasn't like, didn't have a chorus like, no, you don't know what you will give up, or like, you're living your life the wrong way, and that kind of stuff. It's like, man, I used to love singing along to this, but it's kind of like being lectured by a dad.
Right.
So, I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, as with many things, I blame Black Flag, who did it first and did it better than most with, "You're one of them, one of them," or "You bet we've got something personal against you."
Yeah.
Just maybe the clunkiest phrase ever to be the title of a song.
Yeah, at least one with words. Mm-hmm. So high points. My favorite high point, I think, one of them at least, is the beginning of chapter 13, which is kind of cribbed from an in-game letter you can discover. But it's really like bargain basement Lovecraft. And we just spent a while talking about Lovecraft on our bonus episode, so it really rang home. And I'm going to read a little bit of it here because it just made me laugh with how obviously Lovecraftian it was trying to be. 13. My dearest Alma, I sit here trying to think of where to begin, of how to explain in a few simple words all that's happened in my life since we last spoke, and already I fail. I hope this letter finds you well and whole, and that you will forgive the tangents of my pen. This isn't easy for me. Even as I write, I can feel the simplest of concepts slipping away, lost to feelings of despair and confusion. But I have to tell you what's in my heart before I can rest. Be patient and accept that what I tell you is the truth. The entire story would take hours for me to tell you, and time is short, so accept these things as fact. Last month there was an accident in the lab, and the virus we were studying escaped. All my colleagues who were infected are dead or dying, and the nature of the disease is such that those still living have lost their minds. This virus robs its victims of their humanity, forcing them in their sickness to seek out and destroy life. And here's some Lovecraft right here. Even as I write these words, I can hear them pressing against my locked door like mindless, hungry animals, crying out like lost souls. And then it goes on for a while. But as many people have pointed out, quite accurately, I think. Lovecraft loves to have their narrators stop in the middle of life-threatening moments to write to the reader, like, even as I sit here in my room, I can hear them approaching. I know I have but moments before the fish people catch me. And it's like, well, dude, why are you writing to me then? And yeah, so anyway, that was a high point to me, just because it was very obviously like, I'm going to get a little creepy, a little weird, if you will.
P.S. Sorry so sloppy, where all the S's,
It's the cool S.
Yeah, share one S, or P.P.S. Could you send me back my copy of Zelda?
But the point where you realize this was cribbed from a video game that was written by somebody who is Japanese and not American is when you get to the end of the note and it's signed Martin Crackhorn, and I don't care. Which is probably the least believable name in the book, I think.
The names in this book do not cover themselves in glory.
Yeah. I mean, Jill Valentine, I'll buy if we're talking about, female wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is either somebody overthinking or somebody else underthinking what to call themselves as an adult filmmaker.
Ooh, that's a really good point. Yeah. In my mind, I was roller derby, but
yeah,
I think you're more on brand there. That's adult film. Jill Valentine is very much adult film. Chris Redfield even kind of fits in there.
Barry Burton.
Barry Burton is 100% acting in some films for grown-ups.
I think I've seen a few of those films actually. I guess I owe you a low point. Now, this might be a little cheap on my part, so I apologize in advance if it is, but I think that one could reasonably quibble about some of the decision making that happens within this private paramilitary squad on a rescue mission in the forest. I already mentioned that they get out of the helicopter to run a rescue mission at dusk in a forest.
A pretty great idea, guys.
And they have 15 minutes to chopper out there, and at no point does anybody say, the sun is going down, let's grab flashlights.
Yeah.
That's a little frustrating to me. There is, however, one more, slightly even more egregious moment. While the alphas are roaming through the mansion, looking for any survivors among the Bravos, they find...
Not the betas, everyone. It's not the alphas and betas. It's the alphas and the Bravos. It's important to remember that difference.
Yeah, it's not the Chads versus the... I don't even care.
The lobsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They find but two. One has already been grievously wounded, and the other is an 18-year-old who's just graduated from college, and she's a medical genius. And Chris Redfield kind of takes her under his wing and escorts her, if you will, through the mansion, and at one point ditches her in a room with a piano.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're trapped in a maze-like mansion that's infested with flesh-hungry walking dead humanoids, and you decide that it's a great time to get a little piano practice in, explicitly on the basis of maybe somebody on my side will hear me and come here.
And it's already been established that these zombies are very sensitive to sound and scent.
Yeah. Again, you might be a medical genius, my friend, but tactically, I think you could use a refresher course.
Well, maybe those zombies are just really into Billy Joel, and when you start playing Moving Out, they're just going to bust out some dance moves. That bass line's pretty sick.
I mean, she is the piano girl.
Yep.
But I believe she's playing Claire de Lune.
That's true. No, it's not even that obscure.
Is it Moonlight Sonata?
It's Moonlight Sonata.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Because Debussy is even too obscure for this book. So, but I like to imagine that she just thought they were the thriller variety of zombies that would maybe just start dancing when they heard a tune.
Form up into a squad.
Yeah.
The fact that Resident Evil doesn't actually have one scene where if you do everything just right, that literally happens is
that would be amazing.
Extremely disappointing.
You could turn on a boombox and like some funky Quincy Jones production starts up, and the next thing you know, they're all doing sync dances,
Doing sick ass like shoulder moves,
like prisoners in the Philippines. Do you remember that? That was like a viral video a while ago. I'm not making an off-color joke.
I don't remember that.
It's not an off-color joke. There was like a viral video a couple years ago of like prisoners that like had filmed themselves like doing the entire Thriller dance routine in the Philippines. It was interesting. It was very
cool.
popular for like a week.
Empty the prisons, friends.
I agree 100%. I feel like anybody who's going to get together and choreograph a Thriller dance with their friends is probably not too much of a menace to society. I think it's okay to let them out.
They deserve to walk free or, if you will, flash mob free.
Yeah, totally. They could think of all the money they could be making on New York City's subway system.
Yeah.
All the people they could be annoying. They could join Improv Anywhere.
Think of all the malls they could bring delight to. By the way, Improv Anywhere frustrates me to virtually no end because that's the exact opposite of improv. Okay, I'm going to climb back down
That's
off
true.
my soapbox. I think you owe us a low point.
We've done excruciating planning for our improv performance. That's
Yeah.
a really good point. I never thought of that.
Let's all do the exact same thing at a predetermined time and place. That's not improv.
Yes, and here is my low point. And I think I've been to this well before.
What are you doing with that pool noodle?
Whoa! I'm on the subway with no pants. That was one of the Improv Anywhere stunts.
No, that's our listeners. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
That was Collision, everyone, not me. I've called this out on several books before. It's a plot device that I hate, and when I got to it, I groaned out loud in public, and here is the sentence. He couldn't afford to keep making mistakes, to let his attention wander from what was in front of him. This wasn't some kind of game where he could push a reset button if he missed a trick. I absolutely hate this. And like it happens all the time in movie novelizations, game novelizations. Sometimes it happens in novels where they're like, this wasn't a book where he could do whatever. And I would just like to tell everyone out there who's writing, you do not have to do this. You don't need to remind the people that your characters in your book are not actually living inside the media that you're creating. We're smart. We're going to figure that out on our own. And it's assumed knowledge when I'm reading a book about characters doing things that they're not actually in a video game. You don't need to reify that point. Thank you. That was my first low point.
So you're saying this is no movie. There's no Mekhi Phifer.
Exactly. Or, this is not a podcast. I don't know what you're thinking. We're not just here to tell jokes about books. Oh, well, kind of.
Oh.
All right, low point.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to find it.
I know. This is hard for
Okay.
you. I understand. It's like being mean to someone that you really care about, like in movies when they try to chase the dog away by being like, I never loved you anyway, and throwing rocks at him and stuff to save the dog. Oh, you should see Collision's face. I'm saying, I get how you feel.
Why would anybody be that mean to a dog? That's
To
just
save
horrible.
him, man. The world's messed up, and that dog's just going to suffer as long as it's with me, because I'm a bad person with a heart of gold.
So I decided this season that I was going to get hip, get with it, and I've watched more episodes of Game of Thrones from this season, viz. 4, than I've watched in any other single season, I believe.
Well, that's cool, I guess.
And this thing where Jon Snow just sent away his direwolf,
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
TNC, B.
Yeah.
That's not cool, bro.
I don't...
That's your magic psychic linked dog buddy.
And as many times as I've said, I think even on the show, I don't believe in spoilers. I think a good narrative, unless you're talking about a mystery, is still good, even if you know what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to refrain from saying anything else about this
Okay.
because I know the torrent that is unleashed when you mention anything that's occurred on a Game of Thrones episode within the past month on the
Oh,
internet.
sorry about that, but it's still bogus, man.
I agree 100%. I've found this whole season to be incredibly bogus, but that's for a different show.
Treat your dogs well, people.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my low point. They edged into the large room, careful not to walk too closely to the hissing walls. There were 3 doors besides the one they came through. One directly across from the entrance, and the other 2 facing each other to their left, where the room opened up.
Non-Euclidean geometry.
I can come up with 1, maybe 2 plausible sketches of what this room looks like. But this whole book takes place in a physical plant that makes less than no sense. They take elevators into parks that give onto hallways that give into spiral staircases going down in the middle of laboratory. And it just, like, I never had any idea where the fuck anything was happening. And that was, I don't know, that was a slog for me. That was a struggle for me.
It's almost like the entire world of this video game or novel was based on a video game from the late 90s and all of the idiosyncrasies that came with it, because that is my next low point.
Whoa.
And I think it's mostly going to be about what I perceive to be the process of writing this game, because I've heard...
This
novel. I've heard stories about this before when it comes to novelizations of games, that it's quite frequent for writers to receive walkthroughs, descriptions, assets from the game, and base their writing completely on that, because a lot of times these writers are pumping out a lot of stuff. They don't necessarily have time to defeat an incredibly hard video game to figure out step by step how it goes.
Also, the skill sets of writing a book to completion on deadline and playing a video game might not overlap that much.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, I have neither skill set.
And this is a game that is also very heavy on non-CG content. Like, there was a lot of filmed cutscenes with real actors. Some of this is quoted word for word in this book, and the plot for this book tracks one-to-one with the game, right down to the fact that they are solving puzzles that are in the game in the exact manner that you solve the in-game puzzles, like by unlocking tricky puzzle locks by collecting discs to put into a tumbler, or perhaps flipping a series of switches under paintings in the correct order to open a door. And, like, there are so many of my notes where it's like, holy shit, they're not really going to do this. Oh my god, she's doing this. This is like reading a strategy guide.
Bam! Third encore. He uses the wolf key in the wolf lock.
I mean, they backtrack to pick up things that they need that they were previously inaccessible. Like, it's literally someone read the walkthrough to this game, watched some of the cutscenes, and then wrote a book about it, which is fine. It's totally fine. But if you've played this game before, there are so many parts where you're like, they're not really going to do the cheesy puzzle lock, are they? And then, yeah, she does the cheesy puzzle lock. It's something else.
We should point out that one of the signal features of the Resident Evil video game franchise is that it is a genre known as survival horror.
Yes.
Where you tend to have lots of cool tools and toys to play with, but those cool tools and toys are of extremely limited number of uses. So sure, you've got a gun, but you've only got 3 bullets.
Yeah.
So if there's 4 zombies in front of you, and the only way you can kill a zombie is with an extremely accurate headshot, well, you can't blast your way out. So you've got to figure out some other way, right? And why do I bring this up in the context of this book? Well, it's because there are roughly 684 moments where the characters have to stop and check their stop and review how much ammunition they have. Like, that is a very major concern for the characters of this book.
But while this is true, one of the things that really bothered me about it is a core part of the game experience itself is left out, which is combining different color herbs to use as medicine. Because one of my favorite things about that game when I was a teenager was laughing every time I picked up a quote-unquote green herb.
You were like, fuck, I wish it were that easy.
You used green herb. Your life went up. It's like...
Yeah, it would. So would my understanding of how fucking rad this Peter Tosh record is.
The step and razor, my friend. It was like the punchline to a cruel joke. To get out of the house, he had to find crests. Once out in the courtyard, he'd have to make his way through a winding maze of tunnels that ended in a hidden section of the garden, where there was an old stone fountain that marked the entrance to the underground labs. The fountain was one of Spencer's fanciful creations, a marvel of engineering that could only be opened and closed to hide the facility underneath, provided, of course, that you had the keys, 2 medallions made out of brass, an eagle on one, a wolf on the other. This is all exactly from the game.
And isn't there the exact same lock later, except instead of 2 crests, you need 4 crests?
That's actually earlier, which seems like a bizarre de-escalation until you realize that in the game, the 2 crests part, That's where the enemies get a lot harder to kill.
Shit, do I owe you another low point?
No, I think we've just both done our 2 low points, man. I think we're back to high points.
Okay, great. There's a moment very, very late in this where I'm going to have to ruin the joke slightly. This is after we have met mutated monkeys of various kinds, several
monkeys.
Several different kinds of reanimated lab personnel, and what I can only assume are some of the world's least fortunate janitors and other fizz plant type workers, and at least one giant mutated hell plant. And our character is musing after having discovered the identity of the traitor Albert Wesker. It seemed that Umbrella had created more than one kind of monster. And on one hand, I actually yelled, and this is not a joke, I actually yelled, yes, in my apartment when this happened. And that's not a joke. It very much startled my imaginary cat. Who needs a name? If you have a good name for my imaginary cat, please email it to idontevenownatelevision@gmail.com.
Albert Whiskers.
Oh, that's very good. Except my non-show imaginary cat already has a Whiskers-based pun name. So, also, I'm not going to send you a T-shirt.
Well, damn it. I wanted that shirt.
Side note, I probably won't send anybody a T-shirt, but, send it in if you have a cute cat name for me. But that really doesn't work when we've already met no fewer than half a dozen different kinds of monsters. Great line. I loved it. Doesn't entirely work where you put it in the book.
It seems that they had made more than one kind of monster, including the 8 that we'd already encountered.
Yeah. It would have been hilarious, although only literally workable, if at some point after they've seen shambling zombies and skinless dogs, somebody's like, looks like they've made more than one kind of monster. Zombies and skinless dogs, I mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, any book that makes me fist pump alone in my apartment is pretty fucking good. And this is such a book.
So my second high point is an allusion to the second video game that happens early on in this book, because I think I had my wires crossed, and in my mind, Resident Evil 2, the video game, was the first one, because it all takes place at a police station that strangely is like half library and half fancy pants museum, and you have to run around and collect all these other keys and save your game using a typewriter.
Is that what that shit was about?
Yeah, and so they say something about when they're gathering at the police station, when Chris had been a kid, the building had been the Raccoon City Hall. With the population increase a decade back, it had been renovated as a library, and 4 years ago turned into a police station. It seemed like there was always some construction going on. So people who have played Resident Evil 2 will know that this is the setting of that game, with all the things that it entails. So I was like, clever nod to the future.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, so I dug that. It made me... not quite fist pump, but it did make me nod in a nerdy, knowingly way. Like, I see what you did there.
I think somebody in that room also is described as having an old-fashioned typewriter upon their desk.
Which is how you saved your game.
Yeah. See? That's a little hint for the true fans. Again, evidently, I am not one of same.
I think I rented part 2 a whole bunch. And I think I only ever played part 1 just all the way through and then just never played it again. Part 2 was a lot more challenging for me.
I'm a fake gamer boy, and I understand if some segment of the audience is going to say, see you later, boy.
God damn it, I was just going to make that same stupid joke. We've been doing this show too long. Oh, well, I think High Points, Low Points has been tapped out.
Yeah, while we wrestle with the future of the show and the difficulty of coming up with fresh material after 100 episodes together, maybe we should take a break.
That's a good idea. Let's double tap this zombie in the head and go to break.
Let's hit the old save point, because I think that locked door ahead of us may conceal a boss battle.
Did you remember to pick up the typewriter ribbon? All right, we're back. And much like every single person who bought this book did, we're about to play some games.
Whoa!
So, let's...
Actually, fuck, now I kind of wonder if I tried to play the game, having read a souped-up version of the walkthrough, would it make it any easier for me?
The puzzles, yes, but like these games were like punishingly hard when it came to like resource management and aiming and stuff, and I don't think I could beat this game now as an adult. I have shitty reflexes.
Okay, first, just help me conceptually get out of the first room. Am I supposed to shoot the zombie or just run the fuck away from it?
You're supposed to run away at first, because I don't think you really have enough ammo to get shit done.
Damn it.
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
I only thought of that after I hit eject, but never put it back in.
Eject on the tiny little GameCube CD.
Oh, I loved those little guys. They were so cute.
The only other thing that came on CDs that size were like the record label samplers you got with a box of cereal.
Oh yeah, those were fucking great too. My first CD player cost $180.
Jeez.
I bought it on layaway from Radio Shack at the mall. It had a wall of buttons on the front like you wouldn't believe. And its slidey out tray had the normal size.
Oh, and then the mini size.
Yeah, so you could drop those bad boys right in, bro. No problem. No problem at all.
Awesome. So like the 10 3-inch CDs that were ever made that weren't video games, you were ready to go.
I had exactly one ever, and it was this promo from SST Records. I think it had like a crummy Big Drill Car song on it.
There were no crummy Big Drill Car songs, my friend. But I also think, now that I think about it, they must have been cheaper to make, because every time I think about CDs that size, it's always some indie labels like Label Comp.
Right.
Yeah. So they must have been cheaper to manufacture at that point in time than the normal 5.5-inch disc or whatever the dimensions were.
Or some extremely clever but got fucked over salesman for the format sold a bunch of trial discs to indie labels who were like, yeah, we'll take some freebies for sure.
Well, no, because when CDs first came out, you couldn't burn them yourself. You know, you would still have to send away to a pressing plant to get CDs made.
No, I know.
CDR technology was very, very far in the future.
No, I know, but what I'm surmising, what I'm guessing here,
it's like Rainbow Records or whoever does the pressing was like, guess what, guys?
There's this new format. First one's free, just a little taster.
They're like, if you do the little 3 ones, we'll do full color printing on the disc for free instead of just one color.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, savvy business-minded folks like Greg Ginn were like, yeah, sure, I'll do one of these.
Yeah.
And I've got 80 cats to adopt.
Well, speaking of, here's the most savvy business-minded segment in podcast history. Dramatic Readings, here's a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so in Dramatic Readings, we take a piece of this book and read it to you. And I believe I'll go first. This is one of my favorite parts of the book, which involves a man shooting at a snake. So here we go. It was a large attic, as plain and unassuming as the rest of the mansion was ornate. Wooden support beams extended from the floor to the sloping ceiling, and other than a few boxes and barrels against the walls, it was empty. Chris walked farther in, his guard up as he scanned for movement. At the other side of the long room was a partial wall, maybe 4 feet by 9, standing several feet from the back of the attic. It reminded him of a horse stall, and it was the only area that wasn't open to view. Chris moved toward it slowly, his boots against the wooden floor, sending hollow echoes through the cool air. He edged to the wall, training his Beretta over the top as he peered down, heart pounding. There was no snake there. They had seen signs of a snake earlier. But there was a jagged hole near the floorboards between the two walls, a foot high, a couple across, and a strange acrid odor, musky, like the smell of some wild animal. Frowning at the scent, Chris started to back away and stopped, leaning in closer. There was a rounded piece of metal next to the hole, like a penny the size of a small fist. There was something engraved on it, a crescent shape. Chris walked around the side and into the stall, keeping a wary eye on the hole as he crouched down and picked up the metal piece. It was a 6-sided disc of copper, which we've just heard that it was rounded, so I don't understand how that works. But anyway, it was a 6-sided disc of copper with a moon on it.
They didn't have the polygons to make it round. Remember when you would look at like a gun barrel and it would basically be a hexagon, or if you were lucky, an octagon?
Yeah, so we just got very literal here in our game walkthrough, but it was a 6-sided disc of copper with a moon on it, a nice bit of craftsmanship. Inside the hole, a soft, sliding sound. Chris jumped back, targeting the opening as he moved. He backed up quickly until his shoulders brushed the attic wall, then started to edge away. People do a lot of edging in this book, by the way. Seriously, though. And a dark cylinder shot out of the opening, lightning fast. It was as big around as a dinner plate, and it hit the wall inches from his right leg, wood crunching from the impact. Oh shit, that's a snake! Chris stumbled away as the giant reptile reared back, pulling more of its long, dusky body out of the wall. Hissing, it raised up, lifting its head as high as Chris's chest and exposing dripping fangs. Chris ran halfway across the room and spun, firing at the massive diamond-shaped head. The snake let out a strange hissing cry as a shot tore through one side of its gaping mouth, punching a hole through the tightly stretched skin. It dropped back to the floor and whipped itself towards him with a single waving push of its muscular body, at least 20 feet long. Yes. We're just consistently upping the stakes here. Chris fired again, and a chunk of scaly flesh erupted from the snake's back, dark blood spewing from the wound. With another roaring hiss, the animal reared up in front of him, its head only inches away from Chris's gun, blood gushing from the hole in its mouth. Eyes. Get the eyes. Chris pulled the trigger and the snake fell across him, knocking him to the floor, its body thrashing wildly. The tail slammed into one of the thick support beams hard enough to crack it as Chris struggled to free his pinned arms, to at least hurt it worse before he died, and the cold, heavy body suddenly went limp, sagging bonelessly to the floor. Chris! Rebecca rushed into the room and stopped cold, staring at the monstrous reptile. Whoa.
I'm going to steal a line here. This book is better than whatever it is you like.
It's probably true. I love how it starts off, the snake is pretty big. It's like the size of a dinner plate. That's a pretty big snake.
That's a big snake.
Then suddenly its head is the size of his chest and it's 20 feet long. It's like the snake is growing as these paragraphs unfold.
Well, I mean, I assume the virus is causing that to happen.
Oh.
Because science reasons?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I am also going to read you a tremendously exciting Chris Redfield-centric action scene. So apologies if you find this a tad repetitive.
I mean, that's mostly what this book is action scenes, so whatever. Action scenes and people opening locks with weird little puzzles.
So many locks. Chris took a deep breath and plunged into the water, knowing it was crazy, but that he didn't have a better chance. He stroked desperately toward the first door, kicking off against the cement floor to propel himself forward in great, bounding leaps. He hit the door just as the shark was turning up ahead and grabbed for the handle, choking. And it was locked. Shit. Chris jammed his hand into his wet vest and came up with Alias's keys, fumbling through them as the fin glided closer, the wide, pointed grin opening.
Did we suddenly just start reading the Meg again?
Yeah. Oh, but let me tell you one thing. The Meg would have no chance against Chris Redfield. Like, the Meg is a worthy adversary for your Jason Statham level hero.
That's true.
But Chris Redfield is a cut above.
He is, for sure. To start with, way higher poly count.
Yeah, and he's about to show you how to deal with a shark. As long as it's one of those indoor sharks. This entire scene takes place indoors. Have I mentioned that?
I think it's implied in the book because it talks about him bounding around a room. But yes, this is a flooded conference room.
Okay.
With a shark in it.
Right. He shoved a key into the lock, the last key on the ring that he hadn't found the room for, and slammed his shoulder against the door at the same time, the shark now only a few feet away. The door flew open and Chris stumbled in, falling and kicking frantically. His boot connected solidly with the shark's fleshy snout, deflecting it from the opening.
Whoosh! Super kick party.
In a flash, he was on his feet. He threw his weight into the door, and in a slap of water, it was closed. He sagged against the door, wiping at his stinging eyes with the back of his hand. The lapping water settled gently into smaller and smaller ripples as he caught his breath and his vision cleared. For now, he was safe. He unholstered his Beretta and ejected the dripping magazine, wondering how the hell he was going to make it back upstairs. Looking around the small room, he saw nothing he could use as a weapon. One wall was lined with buttons and switches, and he trudged over to look at them, drawn to a blinking red light in the far corner. He's a cat?
Aren't we all?
Looks like I found a control room. Aces. Maybe I can turn off the lights and get the shark to go to sleep. There was
Not how sharks work, Chris. Mr. Redfield, we have important information for you.
He's a marksman and a pilot. He's not a sharkologist.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But I'm sorry, Jason Statham could probably do all three of these things.
Although he's so good at dealing with icky things, you'd think he was an ichthyologist.
Oh, damn.
And he never skips leg day, so he's what you might call a thickyologist.
Oh, dear. He is a real hoss, that's for sure.
Meanwhile, people are punching their monitors in hopes that will dislodge iTunes from their computers.
Yeah, hopefully the unsubscribe button is not flashing in red, or we're fucked.
I assume this is also from the game, but this is not my favorite paragraph.
I don't remember there being a shark in the game. I could be wrong.
That's okay. If there's not a shark in the game, it is amazing that the novelization author is just sort of trumpling along, and it's like, you know what this haunted house zombie story needs? Indoor shark action.
There is a shark in the game. I just forgot about it.
Okay. Well, I still think that this is the best book we've read in recent memory.
I just Googled it, and the first autocomplete is Resident Evil Shark Room. Welcome to the Shark Room. It's the hottest new nightclub in L.A.
Fucking Mark Cuban in there. Anyway, sorry, that's Shark Tank. There was a lever set next to the flashing light, and Chris stared down at the faded tape beneath it, feeling a numb disbelief as he read the printed letters. Emergency drainage system. Okay, I don't want to harp on this. That's not how you label crucial infrastructure in the workplace.
with what? One of those guns that prints out tape?
Yeah.
With like the letters. Like...
Label maker is...
that's it, label maker.
Kind of the bottom acceptable option, but this sounds like masking tape and marks a lot.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, I was thinking of like label maker the way you passive-aggressively like put things like Jay's pen on your pen at work. Jay's stapler. Do not touch.
My buddy said that his first day at the record shop, he used the label maker to print out a label that said label maker to put on the label maker.
That's pretty awesome.
And that his boss had a conversation with him about appropriate uses of time that day.
That tape is pretty expensive, dude.
If you've got time to make labels, you've got time to...
I don't know.
Something that rhymes.
Re-alphabetize the alternative section.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, anyway, sorry. We got to get through this dramatic reading.
Sorry, I've interrupted you way more than is...
I've interrupted myself. Right. It's like we're always hitting pause to go to the fridge for another Mountain Dew. Emergency drainage system. You've got to be kidding me. Why didn't anyone pull this thing the second the tank broke? The answer occurred to him even as he thought it. The people who worked here were scientists. No way they were going to turn down the opportunity to study their precious Plant 42, sucking up water from the man-made lake. Chris grabbed the lever and pushed it down. There was a sliding metallic noise outside the door, and immediately the water level started to drop. Within a minute, the last of it had flowed out from under the door, and a gurgling, liquid gasp came from the direction of the broken tank. He walked back to the door, opening it carefully, and heard the frantic, wet thumps of a very big fish trying to swim through air. Chris grinned, thinking that he should probably feel pity for the helpless creature, and hoping instead that it died a long, agonizing death.
Damn, Chris.
"Bite me," he whispered.
But I just wanted to play drums for your band. It's me, Jabberjaw. He ignored the shark's jaunty hat and striped t-shirt. Yeah.
Was that Jabberjaw's laugh? He had that weird...
That was Muttley. Muttley is the one that laughs
right.
like I do when I'm not doing a voice.
You're right. That's the Muttley laugh.
Yeah, Jabberjaw was one of the two... I can't remember if he had that voice or if he had like the Snaggletooth voice, the exit,
No.
stage left even.
Yeah, no,
Jabberjaw, I think, had more the New York accent. He was like, Jabberjaw!
Yeah, I think Jabberjaw was more of the Bronx guy. I forget the actual, like, heavens to Murgatroyd.
Yeah, that was an actor that they based him on. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I forget the name of that actor. Anyway, I hope that dramatic reading whetted your appetite. $7.99 on an electronics book platform, available almost certainly near you.
Oh, and still widely available on paperback, by the way. I think these books are still in print, even.
They fucking better be.
Yeah.
Because, as I've said before, this is awesome.
Clap. Yeah, totally. Okay, we're running late. Let's do 2 more games here.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and start out with a What is your fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
Oh, what is your fave, even? Okay, Collision, I know you said you had one of these ready to go.
I do. Jay, what is your fave novel by S.D. Perry, also available from Titan Books and set in the Resident Evil universe?
Yes!
Is it Caliban Cove, an original novel bridging the events of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2? City of the Dead, the terrifying novelization of Resident Evil 2. Underworld, an original novel set in the Resident Evil universe. Nemesis, the chilling novelization of Resident Evil 3. Nemesis. Code: Veronica, the horrifying novelization of Resident Evil: Code Veronica.
I'm noticing a trend here.
Or 0 Hour, the gripping novelization of the prequel game, Resident Evil 0.
I'm going to go with 0 Hour here because, as we all know, Resident Evil 0 was the last game built in the original Resident Evil engine before the series took a turn more towards action mechanics instead of its traditional survival horror, and is a very narrative-driven, story-heavy game, which I'm sure would lend itself well to the author's particular brand of storytelling.
That's a good answer. My answer is slightly more embarrassing, which is that I had not read this list carefully until just now. So what I had bought earlier this afternoon...
Oh no, have you gone full Chet and Bernie with the Resident Evil series?
Oh, fuck yeah. I may read these all.
Awesome. Now we both have a secret shame.
So I plumped for Underworld because I saw that it was an original novel, and I thought that would be awesome. But I hadn't realized that the earlier Caliban Cove was also an original novel, bridging the 2 games. So I think I'm going to buy Caliban Cove, read that, and then get to Underworld.
Yeah, definitely go in order.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to, in any way, cheapen my experience of these books, because I know it probably sounds like I'm being sarcastic. I fucking really enjoyed reading this.
No, I think that's been pretty clear. I definitely didn't, and you definitely did, and hey, that's okay. Let's go ahead and do one more game here. We haven't done a lot of this, and I really love the song, so here is Rippin' It Off.
Ripping it off, ripping it off. You say get inspired, but I say rip it off.
It's just so good.
It is. So what we're going to do here is I have a list of quotes from cutscenes of the original Resident Evil game, which is known for having horrible writing.
And really cheesy, stilted voice acting, if
very,
memory
very
serves.
true. So I've got a list here. I think there's 5 of them.
Okay.
One of them actually appears in the book.
Oh.
And so I'm going to ask you to tax your memory and tell me which of these was, quote unquote, ripped off.
And the thing is, you're blocking the door, which means to get out of this room, I must solve this fiendish puzzle.
From the cradle to the grave. Look, there's a strange inscription and a series of paintings depicting various stages in a person's life. I wonder
From a
if...
cradle.
Yeah, from a baby to an old man who is dying. I wonder what order I should flip these switches. Game puzzles were a lot simpler back then, kids.
I don't know. Those Capcom puzzles, like, that was actually the moment at which often mentioned game... oh, shit. What was the big GameCube Suda51? Killer 7.
Yeah, Killer 7.
When it started getting these like absurd Capcom puzzles where you've got to go get a golden thing of a particular shape to put in a gray thing receptacle for that shape, I was like, I'm fucking out.
Well, also, I mean, that's a Suda game, so it's like completely, you can't make sense of it. It's like weird, non-stop abstraction. It's like, I don't know, like a video game Godard film or something. Like, you're not going to figure it out super easy. You got to think about it, man.
It's like the puzzle is, am I the chump for buying into this system?
I still haven't figured out, like, I feel like Suda51, incredible guy when it comes to thinking of really weird ideas, and one of the worst game designers on the planet. Don't at me. I enjoy everything he does from a conceptual level. I hate playing it. Always. Okay, anyway. So here are 5 quotes.
Okay. And I've got to try to identify the one that's actually in the book.
In the book, yeah. And this might be easier for you because you might have a more vivid memory of it. But here we go.
Okay.
First, Barry. I'm going to find out what caused Forrest's death. It looks like he was killed by a crow or something. Barry. We should start from the first floor, okay? And Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, takes it with you. God, I love that one. Here's another one. Barry, that was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich. Jill, you're right, Barry. Thanks for saving my life. Wesker, don't be a hard dog to keep under the porch, Barry.
Wait. Hard dog to keep under the porch?
Don't be a hard dog to keep under the porch.
Holy shit. That's the next t-shirt right there.
And then this is my favorite. Barry, it's a weapon. It's really powerful, especially against living things.
Holy. Okay, what weapon? Okay.
I think the virus is actually what he was talking about. But yeah.
I assumed he was talking about the Remington shotgun.
It might have been that too. I don't remember. But one of these did appear in the book.
The Remington shotgun is mentioned so often, it is almost a character in this fucking book. I am going to say that it's Jill Sandwich.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jill Sandwich. That was too close. You were almost a Jill Sandwich. Does appear in the book. And it does say that Jill thanks Barry for saving her life. She doesn't actually say, you're right, Barry. Thanks for saving my life. But yeah, that's pretty amazing. I really wish it would have been the master of unlocking.
I think, though, that as a, how to put this, native speaker of English and self-respecting author, that our very esteemed S.D. Perry was not having any of that. Because there is actually a scene, I don't think it's Barry, I think it's Chris, hands her back a lockpick set that she gave him to play with. And he's I'm in the book,
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm no good with these. They'll do you more good.
I don't know if the book ever, or if the game ever elaborates on her backstory, but that is one of the differences between picking her and picking Chris, is she has a set of lockpicks, so she has an easier time getting into doors. She doesn't need to collect keys. Chris can take more damage, but has to, do a lot more exploring if he wants to open all this tertiary areas.
As somebody who didn't play the game, but who has played a video game before, maybe the most egregious lampshading to me was the moment where Chris is trudging down a hallway reflecting that while he's the better marksman, Barry is better at the quick draw than him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, fucking come on. Like, what's next? He's going to get to a room and think, this is a good place to relax and collect myself. Perhaps I can take the opportunity to upgrade some of my skills.
This would be a great place to save my memories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, Jill's sandwich was correct. So, ding, 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 you win a prize. The prize is we get to go to break. So, we'll be back. Boom, 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 down. We're back. And we're not talking about Resident Evil anymore.
Which is a bummer. I get it, and I'm sorry.
Or are we? Because first up is recommendations. And I'll go first and say I haven't had a lot of time to read. So what I'm going to recommend to you, if you have a relatively strong stomach and you're a fan of horror, you should play the latest Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 7, because holy shit, it's terrifying. It's really fun. It's, still got a lot of the staples of the franchise. There's zombies and stuff, don't get me wrong. However, it's got more of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like weird, isolated, creepy family vibe, as well as callbacks to events, some and characters, some of which are even in this book. So, I would recommend playing that video game. I thought it was a lot of fun, even though parts of it scared me so much I had to wait until the next day so I could play it when it was light out.
Whoa. I've had that with so many games back when I was playing games, though, including... So there was one other Resident Evil game I played. I think it was Code Veronica. And there was this moment where you're playing a character, the camera's kind of over their shoulder, and you're walking down this kind of creepy alley, and there's this low window in front of you, like a basement window, that half a body is hanging out of as though it were trying to climb out and died halfway through. And as you approach it, it gets pulled slowly back into the window. And I remember, I just wish I'd been videotaping this, because it's the only funny timing-based thing I've ever done in a video game. I stopped and just hit back and, backed straight the fuck out of that alley, because I needed to know nothing about what was going on in there.
Art imitates life.
Yeah. So I also have a recommendation. It is also not a book. Sorry. I'm kind of struggling through Lincoln in the Bardo right now. I don't know. It's check back when I'm done. So I'm going to recommend a movie. It's a movie that was long awaited. There were so much was said about it in the run-up as it was coming out. I'm going to be very, very careful, because even though it's been out a little while now, I don't want there to be any spoilers. It includes stars from huge franchises, and even one of the great pop music artists of our day is in it. And I'm speaking, of course, about the new Claire Denis movie, High Life.
I've heard really good things.
It's worth a see. If you like any of your more conceptual space-based science fiction movies, you owe it to yourself to see it. And I think it's particularly worth seeing it in the theater. And you don't have a whole lot of time to do it, my friends.
Yeah.
So heave yourself away from your home-based entertainments and treat yourself to a big screen experience.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're going to go to the movies now, go see something that's not going to be there in a month, because I guarantee you that fucking Avengers movie will be in theaters all summer long. You got plenty of time for that one.
All night long. All night.
I mean, if you start watching it at midnight, I don't know. You're almost there by the time it ends.
Good gravy. That's a long picture,
And
my friends.
once you've opened that Pandora's box, man, I'm afraid you can't close it. Like, I'm just really worried now. Every summer blockbuster now is going to have to be at least 180 minutes, or people on the internet are going to complain about not getting their money's worth.
Yeah, value for money,
And
it's called.
I was saying, as much as I like watching The Rock battle natural disasters, I don't know if I need 3 hours of it at any given point in time, but I'm worried that's where we're headed. I'm scared, folks. I'm scared.
I feel you, and I particularly am afraid that the next disaster The Rock has to battle is that Fast and Furious spinoff. Whew!
Oh, that looks bad.
I mean, so my delineation, I might have said this before, but my delineation for who is and is not a millennial is people who really like the Fast and Furious franchise, millennials.
Uh-huh.
Because I am a youngish Gen X. By no stretch can I count as a millennial. And that franchise has never made fucking sense to me.
I'm pretty far away from a millennial, but I really liked them once they started getting self-aware. But this spinoff, I'm not interested in.
The way they've moved the goalposts, you now are just on the cusp of the oldest millennials.
See, when I was a kid, I was Gen Y.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, and I know we've talked about this. When I was a kid, Gen X were people who took Brady Bunch really seriously.
Yeah.
And that just never vibed with me. Anyway, this is, you know what? We've gotten a lot of pushback lately for our tangents and for the overall length of episodes. So I'm just going to go straight into letters. Fuck you. You don't even get a song this time.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter M, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
This is a letter from Jason, fake last name, and it is entitled Book Question. Hey guys, I ran across your pod a few months ago and I'm fucking loving it. Very entertaining. But I have one question. Having listened to Vampire Dollar Signs, it seems like you guys really enjoyed it, though it's considered a bad book by some. Do you guys ever read books that are considered good? If so, I have a few suggestions to add to the backlog. That is to say, I have suggestions of books that I like and would love to hear you guys pick apart. Anyways, thanks for the laugh. Jason, fake last name.
I think we've done quite a few books that are considered good. It just depends on who you're asking.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ender's Game, I think a lot of people think is good. The Alchemist, a lot of people think is good.
Yeah.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, a lot of people think is good.
Resident Evil, The Umbrella Conspiracy,
Exactly.
one person in this room thinks is very
Definitely
good.
a huge classic.
Yeah.
Chet and Bernie Mysteries.
But yeah, exactly. But I will I refer you, Jason, to something that Jay says, it's almost always Jay, at the beginning of almost every episode, which is, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books.
Good point.
We do mostly specialize in bad books, and when we stumble upon a good book, like Resident Evil, The Umbrella Conspiracy, to take just one example of an extremely and inarguably good book, it's usually by accident.
Yeah.
You know, we're definitely not of the Sacred Cow Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Variety.
I don't think either of us is really interested in, like, you know, that literary classic, turns out it sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, like what is that? Like the yellow wallpaper, more like the yellow snore. You know,
Yeah.
that would never be us. Although I did for a long time, every time in the IDEO TV Fun Time Party Pit, when somebody was like, do you ever think that you should take on a sacred cow? Or like, what's the book that ruined your life in a, theme song approved formulation? I would cheekily mention the Bible, but that's just because I'm 14.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I'm 14 and I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Very, very mature voice for a 14-year-old, though. And
Well,
excellent facial hair.
I smoke a lot. Okay, here is another letter, and this is from Mag Piggles. I'm way behind on my podcast listening, but was building some furniture this weekend, so got to catch up on the show and work through 3 episodes.
Woo! That's a lot
Finishing-
of furniture.
That's a lot of furniture. Finishing on Pet Cemetery. I just wanted to say I adore how much love the two of you have for music. Usually I have no idea what you're talking about,
We hear this a lot.
but you're obviously having a good time.
Oh, look at them. They're entertaining themselves so much. It's so adorable.
But this episode, you've gone from the Ramones to Joan Baez to Len to Faith No More to half a dozen bands I've never heard of.
Wow, we did get pretty heavy on that one.
I guess we didn't really talk much about Pet Sematary. Sorry.
What else is new?
You're always so passionate about them. It was wonderful. Obviously, I love the book talk, but just wanted to praise your music love. Well, thank you. I don't really have a response, but
No.
Thanks. That's a really nice thing to say. We'll try to talk about the book sometime.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Music is my first love. It will always be, and it's the thing that I geek out about the hardest, even though I super enjoy reading. I think also after God knows how many episodes of this show, sometimes it's fun to just talk about something else. And, I don't know. I like music. We both do.
Same, and also it comes up a lot, I think, because for me, the experience of reading these books is often very soundtracked because I'm often just sort of alone, either at a coffee shop or at my place or someplace, and trying to concentrate. So I put on some music to drown out the background noise. So it's just this ever-present accompaniment.
And I read a lot at bars, and so, for instance, this book, in my mind, will always be accompanied by the soundtrack of a Pixies Pandora station and shrieking young women next to me who have been doing tequila shots for way too long.
I'm starting to see why you didn't like this book that much. Because the Pixies are fucking horrible.
Whoa.
Sorry, I don't...
Sacred Cow Slaughterhouse much?
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe that. I just thought it would be funny to see if it would get a rise out of Jay.
My eyebrow shot up instantly.
Nothing that Kim Deal has ever had anything to do with artistically could possibly be anything but fucking great. This is clear.
It's a big, big love, my friend.
Exactly. Last letter. This is from Victoria, fake last name, and it is entitled, Apparently There's a Band Called Com Trues.
There is.
This has nothing to do with my email, I just couldn't think of a good subject line.
Well, you know how I like spoonerisms.
Especially band name spoonerisms?
Yeah.
That's just awesome. I was wondering, what do you do with the hard copies of the books once you've recorded the episode? In my brain... there's a shelf of infamy, a black shelf with evil containing sigils stamped on it in silver and black candles burning in front of it to keep the evil from seeping out and infecting the rest of your lives. But that seems maybe a bit unrealistic. Vicky. P.S. Com Trues played a concert in Houston last April. I saw a poster for them in a coffee shop and have been meaning for 2 weeks to pass it on to Doc if he's still collecting band name spoonerisms and if someone hasn't passed him that one already.
I can't lie, that was mentioned, because there are very few band names that are spoonerisms, it turns out.
How about Tron Cruise?
Tron Cruise would be awesome, but...
It's not a spoonerism,
Yeah.
It's more of two things.
Yeah. However, while there are no sigils or black candles, I do have a black bookshelf, and one little container on the shelf is primarily books that we've read for the show. I don't know why I keep them. I just feel like I should. So, I mean, maybe one day when I'm old, I'm going to look back on all of this like I do on my old record collection and just be like, those were the days. I remember when I read The Umbrella Conspiracy. Well, that's not true. I didn't read this in paperback, but I got a lot of them. Yeah, got a lot of them up there. Still got, what was it? The Cyber Cop or whatever the fuck?
Oh, yes.
Hacker Cop?
Cybernark.
Cybernark, yeah. That's still chilling. Yeah, got a bunch of them.
Yeah, so not to push this too hard, but I have more of a pile than a shelf. And at the $15 level on patreon.com/IDEOTV, you enter the Bad Book Collector level of IDEO TV friendship, at which point I will email you a list of the books that I happen to have that we have read, and you get to pick one, and we will sign it, and I will mail it to you.
This is a smart idea, and I should give you a list of the ones I have too, so I'm not just keeping them around for no reason.
It's really just, obviously there are better ways to get a hold of these books. However, I definitely urge you, if you're that desperate to get a copy of Level 26, please do not pay anyone else for it.
Yeah.
Because those people should not be encouraged to continue producing books like that, or books of any sort, or, in fact, they should not be encouraged to do anything other than sit in a quiet room and think about all the evil they've done.
Passively consume.
Yeah.
But I do think...
Atone.
Yeah, I do think that's a good way to kind of roll into wrapping things up here.
Yeah.
As previously mentioned, we have a Patreon. We'd appreciate it if you'd support it.
What that is a subscription service where you pledge us a little bit of money every single month, and it helps us do the show. It helps us afford microphones and hosting fees and all these other things. Occasionally, it helps us buy very expensive books that are otherwise very hard to get, and it helps us carve out the time to do a not easy thing that takes a lot of
sneezing,
takes a lot of effort on our part. It helps us prioritize that and get it done. And if you support us at the $5 a month level, you get a bonus episode every single month.
Whoa.
And it's been real horror hours around here lately. We've delved into the Stygian murk of the eldritch works of H.P. Lovecraft.
Ya boy.
Yeah. As well as, 30-some other episodes, all of which you get access to. Yes, you get access to upon hitting that I support button. So go ahead and do it. That's Patreon, patreon.com/IDEOTV. That helps us out. If you want to send us email, you can do it at I don't even own a television at gmail.com. Remember, I am looking for new show-approved names for my imaginary cat.
That's good. We're on social media, whatever. Also on Facebook, we have a group that you can check out called The Party Pit. It's better than most places on social media. However, it's still on social media, so, use your discretion.
It's a friendly place. People are cool. They talk about neat stuff. A lot of crabs. Haven't had a good pet photo thread in a bit, so maybe somebody can jump in and get that going.
Yep, time for a new pet thread photo. That's literally the only good thing that happens on social media, so we need more of them.
Yeah. So, until next time...
I don't know, drain the water in the crab tank.
Yeah, exactly. Drain the water in the crab tank.
And then ride that crab to safety. Because they're amphibious, right? Some of them?
Oh, hell yeah. Ride the crab to the copter, bro.
There you go. Ride the crab to the apostrophe copter. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
We love you. Bye.